Good morning, everyone. So I'm Max. I'm from the RIPE NCC, and I'm the since December I'm the IPv6 program manager there. And as part of this function, I've picked up something that was started by the previous IPv6 program manager. It's Natalie Treneman. The idea was to run an IPv6 survey and make it global because maybe you don't know, well, of course you should know, but more than 6 years ago, we had World IPv6 Launch Day. And the idea was to build a survey that was similar to the one that was run around then, because there was a big survey. It was done together with the NRO in different years. So this is what, these are the years when it was run. And the idea was to get the data from those and compare it to what we have nowadays in 2018 and see what changed in between. So, the data for the previous surveys is available to everyone. It's available from all the RIRs to all the RIRs. So if you go on the NRO website, you can actually download it and have a look. Of course, without any personal details on there. But we started, we sent out the announcement. This was back in February, and 10 minutes later, what we got was, oh, you know guys, you've decided to use a system, SurveyMonkey, that doesn't support IPv6. So you're asking us to give you information about how we are deploying IPv6, but you don't give us a way to do it over IPv6. So sorry for that, but the reason to keep SurveyMonkey was actually something that we wanted to have for data consistency. Because then what we have now is one big database containing all the answers from the previous surveys and the actual survey, and we could do some matching between them. So all the work was done together with Martin Botterman, which is the same person who ran the previous surveys. He's an external consultant, and he provided all the questions, the previous questions, and all the infrastructure to run the survey. So as I said, we launched at the end of February. We closed officially on March 31st, although we saw some responses coming in even later on. So we actually accepted answers still at the beginning of February. We received this year 1,218 responses, which compares to previous years as a bit lower. Why this? Maybe because the effort that we made, it was just, we went alone, the RIPE NCC, and it wasn't an NRO coordinated effort. We had some support from the other RIRs, but this also meant that people would see this as a RIPE NCC survey, mostly. So what this also meant was that the distribution of RIRs represented in the survey was different. If you see the difference between 2013 and 2018, in 2013 the RIPE region was below 50%, but now we're at 87%, which is actually, for us, could be also a good thing, because then we can have a better idea of our own region compared to a more global idea in the previous ones. So this also gave us a little bit more data, and we'll see it in a moment. So I'm going to give you now an overview of what we found in the global part of the survey, and then I'll give you also a little bit of idea of what we found in the SCE region, so how this data compares to the local countries. So looking at the top countries, you see that not that much has changed. We still have the US pretty high, so the top three didn't, well, shuffled a bit, but they didn't change. We have Germany on top of everyone, UK and US, which were the same ones as before. I see my fellow Italians jumped over quite a few ranks, but also we see good representation from the rest of the region, from the Netherlands, Russia, Spain, Czech Republic. Of course, as a result of not being seen as a fully global survey, some countries that were outside of the region, which would also represent a big chunk of the population in the world, are not represented in the top 10s anymore. But as I said, this can also be seen as a positive way of looking at the data, because we have, again, a better insight into our own membership. So, just to give you an idea, like a bit of basic demographics, what we have, organization types, and this is a comparison between 2013 and 2018. The ISPs were 50%, and nothing changed. And then we have each one, content, education, and ICT at about 10% each one. And then we have about 5% for government, research, and other. So this hasn't changed between 2013 and 2018. So the same way, the customer base size didn't change. So we have a good mix. We have a good mix between small and medium. 60% of the responses came in from small to medium ISPs. We had, as an explanation, we had a certain part of the survey. So one of the very first questions we asked was, what kind of organization are you? What is your business? And the ISPs were 60%. Sorry, the ISPs were 50%. And out of those, we asked specific questions to the ISPs, and we'll see also a few later on. What's your base size, your user size? 60% for small and medium. Then we had between 10,000 and 100,000 customers, up to 20%. And then more than 1 million customers, we had a good 10%, because they still represent quite a large number in here. Now, good news. 85% of the respondents said they have an IPv6 allocation. Up 20% from 2012 and up 10% from 2013, which is, if we look at the statistics of the IPv6 allocations in our region, that's pretty much in line with what we have. So this is one of the data points that tell us this data can reflect reality. So people were genuine in their answers. But also, one thing that we noticed was that compared to 2013, there was a growth in hosted infrastructure from a third party. So people were saying, well, I don't do IPv6, but that's because I don't host my own infrastructure. There's a third party, and they take care of that. And it could be, most likely, as I wrote on the slide, it could be mostly because of cloud services. So people, between 2013 and now, the cloud services had a boom. So that could be related to this data we got in the survey. Now, another interesting one is the reasons for not supporting IPv6. And we gave a series of choices, and the top 3 remained totally unchanged, even in the percentages, basically. So the availability of knowledgeable staff, that's something that we see. I am part of the training services department at the RIPE NCC, and that's something that we see pretty much every day, every week when we travel the region to give training courses. We see that there's still a very, very high demand for training courses related to IPv6 and BGP and all the other topics that we cover. On top of this, I analyzed all the questions, the open questions. I read a little bit of the answers that we got there. One of them was, what do you think your RIR or the RIRs should do in the future to promote IPv6 in a better way? And I have to say that a very high percentage there also said we need more training. So this confirms on both sides what we see in 2 different answers. But also costs, and that's also a big point. Like, to implement IPv6, you need to spend money, and we have a problem. This is also related to the next one, business case to non-technical management. So I have to let whoever is above me understand that we need to do something, but I don't have a real case yet, or I can't find a real case to point my management to the fact that we have to move over to IPv6. And although smaller, vendor support was also one of those points where people said, we lack it. And funny thing is, it didn't change between 2013, 2018, and even I looked back into 2012 and 2011. It didn't change, it stayed the same, which means that even though vendors keep implementing all the new features, they still lack something, and people still perceive that as an issue for not moving to IPv6. Now, moving on a little bit, transition mechanisms. The good news is more than 50% of the respondents said they don't use transition mechanisms. And we'll see that actually in the C region, this is even bigger. It's about more than 60%. But I wasn't surprised to see that NAT64 is actually the biggest player in the field. Although, and Jan will be happy to see this, although, you know, the two little parts here, can you guess what they are? Jan? No? No? I'm asking you because it's one of your pets. Yes. No, it's MAP-E and MAP-T. Well, but it's very small there. And we'll see that actually things change when we look into more details into the SE region. It changes a little bit there. Now, on again with the good news. Aha. There was a question, and this is a graph I took directly from Martin. Do you use or plan to use carrier grade NAT with IPv6 or instead of it? And good thing is between 2013 and now, the percentage of people who want to use carrier grade NAT along with IPv6 has gone from 8% to 0%, which means that people are understanding that this can be troublesome. So better not look at that. Now, given this premise, let me give you a little bit of overview about the SE region. Now, I have to admit, there weren't that many data points that I could use to give you an idea, because we only had, this year, 50 respondents from the region. And they weren't really, so we didn't even cover all the countries. But you can see that even though I say they're not that many, they still were more than the peak we had back in 2011, sorry. So still good, but the other problem is that not all the countries are represented. Not everyone. So the two top ones, Greece and Bulgaria, didn't change. Albania, Romania, Serbia, Slovenia, and Croatia, the others are missing. No responses we got from the other countries in the region. But, okay, I started looking at the data we had, and the reasons for not implementing v6 here were slightly different. The top one was lack of user demand. And this also didn't change between 2013 and 2018. Still the same. Our users don't ask for IPv6. And at the same time, we had, same again, technical problems and costs, budget issues. So things haven't changed apparently in here. Also, other interesting facts between 2013 and 2018 are that we have the same distribution of types. Still, more than 60% of the respondents were ISPs. Same percentage of company size, and we still have a good distribution between small, medium, and large. But also, I have to say, in here we had quite a high percentage, like 20% were very large companies. So people claiming between 100,000 users and 1 million users. And then majority of the answers said IPv6 user percentage between 0 and 0.5. So basically, we're not doing much. And that things are not happening apparently, which matches what you can find in the global statistics ran by other players like Erik Vinke or, sorry, APNIC or others. But here goes the difference in transition mechanisms. You see that in here, actually the interesting fact is that we see there's a little bit of portion about lightweight 4/6, which we can't see because it's too small in the global distribution. But here it plays a much bigger role. So I think out of the 50 responses, I think 7 were mentioning lightweight 4/6, which is quite interesting because it's relatively new, but we're seeing that it's more and more deployed. Now, this is basically what could come out. The rest of the statistics are pretty much in line with the rest of the world. But what we wanted to do at one point was to do a quick reality check. Like, let's see if the data we have in the global survey has some meaning. Can we find something that reflects what we see in the global survey, what people are telling us? I've already told you that some of the data points we have match what we see, but we wanted to be a little bit more certain about this. So what did we do? We took one of the questions. What is the percentage of users or customers on IPv6? So what we went on and created a heat map of this and wanted to have a quick check against the data we find from other people who run some measurements, and also our own measurements, the ripeness, but also what we see with RIPE-Atlas and RIPE-Stat. So look at this. Although you'll see that the next slide also mentions 2013, it's still a typo that I just spotted right now. What do we have here? So basically, the higher, the better, the darker, the better. We took some countries, well, basically all the countries, but we looked at the ones with the highest number of users, also looking at the population. And this was done together with Steven Strohs, also from the RIPE NCC, from the R&D department. And see the difference between 2013 and 2018. So I'm going to move to 2018. Look at the difference. So you see that there are many countries which moved upwards and went a little bit darker, which is good, which means that what they're telling us is that things are happening. So we went on and wanted to look at, so I'm sorry if the names of the countries are small, but I'm going to show you in a moment what we looked at. So we started looking at the top ones and see, okay, do they match what we see in the global statistics? Can we find any relationship between the countries that are there that claim they have, say, 25%, where companies claim to have 25% of the users over IPv6, match what we see in the global statistics in the countries. And guess what countries we found there? If you look at the names, but I'm going to help you, we found the US, where we have lots of mobile users on v6. We found the UK with users on Sky, mostly moving over to v6. We found Switzerland. Swisscom and other ISPs already moved over to IPv6. And we found the Netherlands, where also you have a certain percentage of users over IPv6. So when I gave this presentation at the RIPE meeting, it was comfortable to see that before me, there was Geoff Houston speaking. And Geoff Houston gave also an overview of what they see from their own statistics about IPv6. And I was happy to see, it was comfortable to see, that actually what he was mentioning in terms of countries matched exactly what I had in my presentation. So this gave us the good feeling that we can go on, look deeper into the data in the future weeks, and maybe provide also some articles and some overview of what's in here, more than the presentations that we're giving. So what we're going to do for future work, there's more analysis coming. We're going to share the data internally, look at all the answers with the open fields, and also come up with an analysis of those and a summary of all the answers that we got there, which was also a little bit part of what I did for this presentation. But we're also going to get other departments involved. So we've started collaborating with others to see if we can either collaborate with the data they have or match it with what we have, or provide them with data for their own presentations or for their own work. So I know this was a bit short, but I'm happy to get questions if you have any. No questions? Ah, you have one.
Can you go back to slide 26?
26, okay.
Yes. Would you like to explain us, because you look at the top right
Yes.
side, but we have here for Hungary 37%, for Finland 33%, for Canada 26%.
Yes.
And what's the difference between left side of scaling and scaling with the color?
So
you
the
said
color,
the higher the better, and then you have with the color different percentage.
so the color,
you have practically two types of data.
yes. So the color is the percentage. So the higher, the darker, the more users you have, and then the part on the height is the number of the number of data points I think we have about it. So more users on it. Yep.
So it looks like the best situation is in the Hungary with 37%.
Looks like, yes. Although that needs to be investigated, because we have a confirmation on one side, and then we have to still look at what's about Hungary, what's about Finland in there, because we don't, for those we don't see a match in the rest of the statistics.
Okay,
but we'll still have to analyze what's happening there. Yes. Dimitri?
Hi, I just give Dimitri, Ukraine. I just give a quick comment. Maybe it's good to correlate these percentages with the RIPE Atlas V6 data. I don't know how it would. Sorry, I said maybe it would be better to correlate this with the RIPE Atlas per country data. Maybe. I mean, I'm not. It's not a bad thing.
You mean RIPE-Stat per country?
Right.
Yes,
right.
yes.
Just to see, because people say something that's not always exactly the fact.
Sure. But that's why we did this comparison, just to get an idea. Yes, we will. Thank you.
Anything else?
Okay. Thank you.
Massimiliano. Thank you for the presentation.